And we are live. What's going on, YouTube Live? It's your boy, Billy Rowe, First Row. I'd like to welcome you to the First Row. Today is Thursday. Normally, we don't have live content on Thursday, but today, since it's Thursday, we actually have a special off schedule Intersation Panel. Tonight's topic is interracial marriages and relationships, part 2. So we did the part 1 to this show at the end, the last Tuesday of March. And on that show, we actually got a really good response on what the content was about, the different insights that were shared, and a abundant request for a part 2. Because I live on calendars, there was no room to put a part 2 on the regular cadence. So I created a special one with a whole new group of people, whole new panel, all new questions. So we are going to be jumping into tonight really fast, and I hope you guys enjoy tonight's show. With that, really quick, for people who are still unfamiliar with the intersations, what that is. Intersations is simply when you take an interview and a conversation, you merge the two together and you get what I call intersations. So it's not quite an interview and it's not quite a conversation. It's somewhere in the sweet spot in between. So I first want to start off by welcoming my guests tonight. Key, I need you to unmute yourself because I'm going left to right and you will be first. First, I have Key Vron Bryant. We call him Key. He's the host of Keeping It Real Estate on the First Row exclusively. If you could please introduce yourself to the people and say hello, Brother Key.
What's up, family? How you guys doing out there? Thank you all for joining. Again, this is Key Bryant with Brian Gonzalez Real Estate, and I'm glad to be on this Intersation. There's going to be some great content, so looking forward to it. I hope everyone really interacts on the live chat because this is going to be good.
All right. So up next we have, and I promise I'm not just introducing the guys first. I'm literally looking at my screen left to right. Up next we have the artist formerly known as Brother Bruce Gatewood, but you will be respectively called tonight Elizabeth.
That is so good. That is so good.
Brother Bruce, if you could please introduce yourself to the audience and say what's up to the people.
Well, sometimes I like to go by my alter ego, Elizabeth Gatewood. No, that's my wife's name. I'm on her account. My name is Bruce Gatewood. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a brother. I'm a black man in America. I love this platform, Billy. I love what you're doing. If you're not helping anyone, you're helping me. So I hope that everyone who's tuning in can take something good away from this. It's always a learning situation when you jump on an Intersation.
Hey, I like that. And really quick, Bruce actually was my second Intersation guest when I first launched the Intersation series. Brother Moses was the first guest. He kicked it off with the inaugural show, but Brother Bruce came immediately after that. And I appreciate you for that support. So as much as it's helping you, you definitely helped me and kept me inspired to move forward. So I appreciate it. Third, I would like to introduce a lady who goes by a different name in the circles that we call her. We call her a different person's sister instead of her name. That's what she said to us last night while we were testing. However, I'm going to refer to her by her name. Miss Jessica, could you please say hello to the people?
Hey, everybody. How's it going? I'm Jessica Custodio. I am a wife, a mother to 4, and a labor doula. I am married to an amazing Salvadorian man, so I have some insight on being married to the Latino family. So I come with some insight, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Can you tell people what a doula is? I know what it is, but can you please tell people what a doula is? It sounds like a drug dealer, like I'm a doula. I prove that doula.
Well, so a doula is somebody or a person who gets the joy of supporting women in the birth space. So I am able to support women during their pregnancy, while they're laboring and delivering their baby, and also immediately after in the postpartum period.
All right, thank you. The more you know. Ding, there's my rainbow. And last but certainly not least, actually somebody that I just met for the first time yesterday. So, First Row is branching out slowly but surely. Brother Moses, you kicked it off with Brother McCoon. But now we have another first timer on the first row. Kristen, could you please say hello to the people?
Hi guys, my name is Kristen. I am a mother of three. I am actually in a relationship, and I was raised in an interracial family, so I am actually mixed. I am Hispanic, Native American, and African American. So I have actually been raised in an interracial household, and I feel like anytime I date, it's pretty much interracial anyway, because the cultural differences are definitely there.
We got some good questions for you tonight. Yeah, so I hope
Bring
you're ready.
them.
Oh,
Bring them. I'm ready.
and in all fairness, really quick, because I'm a firm believer of being fair. Kristen had a great setup that she worked on last night. Everybody, she had her lighting right, everything. And somebody decided to knock a hole out in her neighborhood, so now she is producing live and direct from her vehicle with her cigarette lighter charging her phone. So if we lose her, it's not on her. She was totally prepared for tonight.
I was so prepared. It was either this or Starbucks. So
hey, yeah, Starbucks is way too loud. So I'm glad you chose your car. We'll make it work. Don't worry. We don't judge here, but I just wanted everybody else who was in the live chat to understand what the situation was. So with that, I want to thank you guys again for all taking time out of your day to be on this first row Intersation panel. I think this is a very important topic, and I don't know if we can give enough attention to this topic and dive as deep as we need to in any, like even in 2 parts. I don't think we can dive as deep as we need to, but I hope that we're able to generate some really good insights tonight for those who are watching live. For those who are watching live, though you will be seeing all of us visually as we're speaking on the actual video, I do want you to remember that this is a very much an interactive channel, and I see some people in this chat already that I know will be very interactive. So I hope you guys are engaged with us, ask questions, present comments, share your experiences so that we can all grow collectively during this group discussion. With that being said, this first question goes out to the entire panel. We're going to actually go in the order of which you introduced yourself. The first question is the easiest question you're going to get for the night, so I hope you're ready. When it comes to the topic of interracial marriage and relationships, I'm going to say part 2. What does this topic mean to you, Key? Shoot.
I mean, basically, it really just means the new dynamic I think that we have, not just in the United States, but in the world. I mean, it's kind of been something where I think it's very commonplace now. But I also think that a lot of the nuances and some of the issues that come along with interracial relationships or marriages have not always been discussed, even within some of the marriages. So I think that this topic, having this topic is, or discussing it, is a really important thing. And that's why, I wanted to be a part of it. And also from the last Interstation, that's why it was very important to me to, to kind of understand, all those dynamics, from beginning and end. We're talking about starting a relationship into having children and the conversations that you have with your children and so forth, being in a racial marriage and relationship. So that's what it means to me.
All right. Brother Bruce, what do you got? What does this topic mean to you?
This topic, what does it mean to me? I've been married for 16 years. Well, we've been together for 16 years. So to
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Hard work. But to me, it means to be being uncomfortably in love. And what I mean by that is before we got to the, I don't know, some would say honeymoon stage or just comfortable stage, there was a lot of uncomfortable, discomfort, I guess the right word would be. So, and it was a real learning, growing experience to still love someone and have that person love you too, even though you guys are both in an uncomfortable space, as far as getting to learn her side of the family, her getting to learn my side of the family or lack thereof. And then the topic also means to me exploring more than you're used to. For 16 years, we've been on this journey together. And so everything that we've experienced was a first,
Right.
So that's just what it means to me. I don't want to get too deep. I'll keep talking.
All right. Save some,
Yeah,
save,
you're right.
some,
You're right.
save
You're
some
right.
later. And then next on my list, I have you, Jessica. What does this topic, interracial marriage and relationships, mean to you?
To be quite honest, it just means two people coming together from two completely backgrounds and learning how to just get along and live together. I know a lot of times my husband and I will have disagreements and we get past it. But for me, because I'm surrounded more around his family, it's more of a learning experience for myself versus him. So for me, there's a lot of compromise. Lots of compromise.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get into that word compromise a little bit later into this conversation. And last again, but not least, Kristen, what does this topic? You shared a little bit about being biracial yourself, but what does this topic about interracial marriage or relationships mean to you?
It really is about to me, it's about understanding. It's about a lot of cultural differences and understanding that even though you have different cultures and within your life, you can still come together and be one. I was raised in a family where you don't look at color. It was just about love. So being raised in a family where it's just about love, and then growing up and meeting other people and dating, you realize that there is a cultural difference because you weren't raised in that. Everything was just always merged and your family accepted you. My family is on both sides is very diverse. I have cousins mixed with Filipino, Asian, Russian, Japanese. So I've always had that we are one type of mentality. Like we never saw color. We always had pride in who we were, but I've never seen anything else outside of that besides when I started in relationships. It's about understanding. So that's what I take from interracial relationships is really about understanding other people's cultures and coming together as one, because it's communication and differences are huge.
No, that I agree with as well. That understanding, taking the time to learn the nuances. It's almost like learning a language.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my son a minute ago before we started the show. The your, and your, like there's just different ways that happens. I'm sorry, the your, not the your, and your, and then the two, and two. Like you're learning the nuances of the person that you're in the relationship with. And well, this is my second time on the topic. I still think in the term of interracial marriage and relationships. It's kind of to me like a play on learning each other's culture, because I've been married 2 times, and the 2 times that I've been married to an African woman and an African American woman. And African, I had to learn those different cultural nuances. However, though marrying the second time an African American woman, there were different growing cultures that we had. Like I grew up in the hood, she grew up in like a suburb, and so like how I parent, I believe in whoopings, she didn't, because she didn't get whoopings. And so like there's just because it may be the same race marriage, it doesn't mean that you don't have the same and or similar challenges. There are just certain things that you learn, I think, in any relationship, marriage, or whatever it may be, that you learn as you go. And a lot of that has to do with the keywords you guys were sharing, that understanding, that being willing to do the work, that compassion, and that willingness to be uncomfortable. So let's get into it. I hope you guys are ready to rock and roll. So easy question is over. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to jump in on the first one. Don't make me voluntold you. The first question that I want to ask is kind of a reflective question, because one of the things that I wanted to take place if we were going to be on part 2 is that you had to watch part 1. And so for you, for any of you can jump in, but what part of the first show really stood out to you and maybe solidified your desire to be a part of part 2 on interracial marriages and relationships? Jessica, see, I told you.
So really, what I enjoyed listening to them talk about access, like the race that you had most access to. being the race that you dated the most. So you and I grew up in the same community. We went to the same schools. So I actually felt like I was the minority at our schools and in our community. And so what I had access to was a lot of different ethnicities. And I felt when I was younger, I was more drawn to African American boys or men. And so that's who I dated as a child. And then I grew up and I got more access to other ethnicities. Actually, to be quite honest with you, when I met my husband 9 years ago, I was naive. I didn't know what an El Salvadorian was. So meeting him, I was like, he looked Latino. He looked a little like different. And then when I found out where he was from, I was like, what? What's that? I didn't know. So I had to learn a lot from him. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed the access piece.
Okay. Anybody else want to share?
So I enjoyed the question that was posed in regards to spending time having your children in a interracial marriage, spending time with both sides of the family, and getting to learn. They were speaking about how I know what to act like because this is how my cousins act, but I think the topic was, at first it was about being in the same relationship. My wife and I are interracial, so their cousins have access to my wife's side of the family, but I don't have any family. So I thought that I could really bring a perspective to that challenge, because that is such a huge challenge. And it's like, I always struggle. And I said, I talk to my kids about everything. We don't ever have I've never goo gaga'd them. I'm straight like, yo, this is how it is. So I talk to them all the time, like, yo, this is what it's like, from my perspective as a black man, but you don't have little black cousins little DeAndre or little JJ acts like this or acts like that. So they don't know. And the only interaction they get is from school. So then people ain't raising their kids right. So now they have a negative interpretation of people who look like me, like little boys who look like me. They have a negative interpretation of it because that's all they know. So like, I struggle with that. And that was the piece that made me want to
get involved.
Yeah. That was good.
Right.
But the whole obviously the whole conversation was just riveting for real.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Key or Kristen?
Yeah, Bruce kind of. I'm gonna piggyback on Bruce because he kind of hit what resonated with me, and that really is understanding the dynamic of, with your children, and that's like, what side of the family, if you don't have a balance there and your children are on one side of the family more than the other side, how do you teach them that culture? How do you make sure that they understand their culture, completely, and having that balance, right? Especially if you're having one family that's on one side of the country and, the other one is there with you, or not having either one, so it's like, what responsibilities do you have as a parent to make sure that you have that you're exposing your children to that?
Okay, and for me, last but not least, it's actually all of them, and the access is huge, because when you're dealing with I grew up in a Hispanic neighborhood, so to me, I'm like, the only man that I saw that was African American was my father and my uncles and my brothers. But I grew up more attracted to men that look like my father.
Right.
As far as my kids are concerned, and like our family and the access with our family, it just meant that I had more access to my mom's side. So even though I was still raised in, like I told you guys, my family was very diverse, I had access to everything. So I never saw anything different, even though I was raised in a Hispanic neighborhood. So all of the conversations meant a lot to me, because it was just like, it touched on things. It was like, you know what? I didn't never experience some of those things that they experienced. And it was just nice to hear that, even though they had, like, I know the girl, she said her father had married a woman of a different culture. And I was just like, she was brought into something that she wasn't raised into, and to see somebody go into that world and not have any idea, and it was just something that was just natural to me. It brought a different new perspective for me. So,
and I'm not going to say what I like. I liked all of it. But it was a very fun conversation, and I really look forward to tonight's conversation being of similar candor. The next question I want to move into, actually, there's a couple things in the chat that have been said that I want to bring into the conversation really quick. The first thing being, I lost it. There we go. The network, that is Mark Anthony. He says, "Hi, Billy and panel. It is Mark Anthony. I am Filipino American, married to an African American woman." So we got an interracial relationship there, and that's actually a marriage, not just a simple relationship. And then a shout out to the young Gatewood. Bruce has his daughter, Janae, in the chat, and so I'm all about fatherhood and having your kids back as best as you can. So I really welcome Janae. Shout out to you for joining and coming to get some of this wisdom from your pops and the other panel members. So I wanted to make sure I brought those in. And then last but not least, Mike Lewis said, "Don't call El Salvadorians Mexican because they are not."
Absolutely not. No.
And don't call Mexicans El Salvadorians.
Right. Like, if you're going to date somebody from Latin America, you better really understand the demographic makeup.
Oh, you have to. And the food is completely different.
I am not Cuban. I am not Puerto Rican. I am Mexican.
Right. So with that, let's move on to the next question. And this is for anybody. Again, I'm gonna tell you over and over again. Don't make me voluntold you. Have you ever hidden a relationship or a marriage in fear of being ashamed or being found out or due to a cultural upbringing?
I can go real quick.
Go.
I'll keep it real simple.
No.
Listen, for me, the answer is absolutely not. And the reason is I don't do anything that I'm ashamed of. Like, straight up, if you're in my life, if I don't want to walk outside holding your hand, that's something that has something to do with you and not anyone else. Like, if I don't want to be seen in public with you, that's not society's judgment or that might be a problem with you, but I wouldn't even get that far. So the answer for me is no. I've never done that.
Never.
Ever. I mean, if she wasn't that attractive,
yes.
maybe.
That's a her thing. That's a her thing.
I say no. When it comes to culture, no.
No. Okay. Jessica, what did you say? You covered your mouth.
I'm gonna say yes. When I was a kid, yes, absolutely. Because my grandfather was, first of all, he wasn't okay with us dating anyways. But anything that was not white was not right. So, and I'm saying that respectively. So if my first couple boyfriends were Black, so I kept that to myself, and that was just how it was.
You know, and that's the honest, number one, I appreciate your transparency, but that is the situation that some people come from. Like racism, I tell people all the time, like, you know, Jessica, we were raised in the same neighborhood. Yeah, but racism existed when we were raised in that neighborhood. It wasn't like, oh, we were such a diverse neighborhood, everything was kumbaya. No, I mean, in elementary school, I played with everybody, but that doesn't mean that everybody's household was accepting of me playing with them outside of school. So, like, it was cool you play tag, but I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. Well, it was cool you play tag.
But it went both ways though, too, Billy, because those Black boyfriends were like, we could be together at school, but I can't bring you home to my mom. So it went both ways.
And no, you're absolutely right, and that I think that is so why this is such an important topic. It's so good to hear and to express and to, like, similarly have the same situations and learn from it and grow from it, because the thing is, it's all stupid. Like, it's an old mentality. It's an old mindset. It's like, and I don't care. I tell my kids all the time, well, first of all, y'all don't need to be dating no damn way. But, I mean, excuse me, but what I tell them is, though, you got to judge people by, and same thing my grandfather told me, you judge people by their heart, their character, their action, not by the color of their skin. That's the dumbest. Come on, man. Keep it moving. Off on.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I thank God for my parents, because all I saw was love. So I didn't see anything different.
Yeah, I think that's a big part. Like, how do we break that? Because in my opinion, it was broken to begin with. Like once you started thinking that you could really tell something about somebody based on like certain features, like you're sliding in the wrong direction. So my question, and I apologize, this is not one I gave you guys in advance, but how do we break that mindset? How do we reestablish, or not reestablish, establish a healthier platform for not only our kids but for ourselves, like in marriage and relationships? How do we establish that platform for ourselves and break down some of those barriers that were established by the generations before us?
By calling a spade, by calling stupid, by calling disrespect, but not basing it on, well, you did that because, well, that's what your kind does, or I did this. This is how I act because this is how we act. Like, no, if you're human and you do some stuff, I almost cursed, I'm sorry. If you do something stupid, let's call it stupid. Let's, and then I like how Kristen's whole family dynamic is how we break it. We just teach love. We just teach love. Like, I don't care what it is. Wrong is wrong, right is right. It has nothing to do with where you come from, what religion you believe in, none of that stuff. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. Let's just teach love. You feel me? Like,
I'm with that. Really quick, I want to bring into the conversation. Sylvia says, yes, never do anything that you're ashamed of. My ex-boyfriend would not hold my hand in public because he couldn't be seen with a white girl. Obviously an ex for a reason. Absolutely. Like it, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not really big on PDA. Sometimes I'm like, y'all need to go somewhere with all that. However,
it's hard.
Right. But if it's like holding hands, that's not like extreme PDA. I should be able to walk with you and hold your hand. Other than that, I'm ashamed of you, or I want to be able to have plausible deniability to be like, oh, she's just a friend. She's just a friend. I don't even hold her hand like I hold your hand when we in public. So definitely, I don't think we should be doing anything that we're ashamed of. And Mike Lewis says that is his shame, not your shame to hold.
Exactly.
So I like that. Good call out on that, Lewis. Let's move on to the next question, though. As far as, in your opinion, what is the root of the emotions we feel when we see someone of our race dating outside of it? And Miss Lovechild, I'm gonna let you go first, Miss Lovechild. That's what your name is tonight, Miss Lovechild.
I just see it as a couple. I don't see it as anything different. It's a couple.
That I knew you were going to say that, so I'm going to ask you a secondary question.
It's a couple. I mean, I got different looks when I was younger. When I would see people look at my parents, they would make comments like, "Oh, you're adopted," or "Is that your because my mother's Mexican," and they would think that she was my babysitter. And it was just like, that's my mom. Wow. Like, I know. So scandalous. It would, or I had a friend whose mom who had coarser hair, and because I would pick us up, my mom's hair is thick and it's super straight, and they would think that was my mom instead of my actual mother. And so I would have people look at my parents differently. But like when I went to Florida, I felt like there was more other people like me. It was like more of a unity to me. But like I just see it as love. I don't see it as anything different. It's just a couple. Because my brothers date interracially. I feel like anybody I date, it's an interracial relationship because there's so much cultural differences. Because they don't understand that I come from two different backgrounds. They want to put me in this box of like, oh, what box do you check? Or your dad's black, so you're black. I'm like, I don't deny my mom. I don't deny my father. I don't deny my heritage. I don't deny that. To me, I'm just a person. So I just look at people as the people.
Okay, I knew you would say something along those lines. I just wanted you to be able to say it. I'm picking on you, but it really, in reality, my thought process is how do we as a society get to that place where we can begin to see people as people?
Raise your kids like that. Exactly. That's how my niece didn't even know we watched perfect example. We watched Chris Rock's Good Hair documentary. That's the first time my niece realized that she was of African American descent.
Oh wow.
She didn't, because my sister does, and her husband, even though he's Trinidad and Canadian, he doesn't even look at people like that.
Mm.
So my niece had no idea.
Okay.
None.
Yeah.
So it's just how you raise your kids.
Yeah, I think I mean, I completely agree, but I also think that it's about exposure, exposing, you know, your children to other elements, other cultures at a young age. You know, it stops them from being in a, you know, when I grew up, I mean, going to certain schools, it was like predominantly Black, right? So if you have that dynamic where you're going to schools where it's very diverse, or you expose them to a lot of diverse elements, rather if you're going, taking them out of the country or taking them to different places and exposing them to that, I think that it really does take away that thought or that mindset of, yeah, I need to stick with my culture, you know, and so forth. You know, and there was an episode I was watching, The Shop, with LeBron James, and he was talking about when he grew up in Akron, that he never seen a white person until he went to high school.
Wow.
Like, he didn't understand. He was like, when he played basketball in the school he was like, it was all Black people, and there was already this idea of how white people were. You know, he had no idea. So he goes to the school, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's playing with white athletes, and he's like thinking that's very foreign. And then coming to find out that sports really broke that barrier. It was like, no, he's a brother just like, you know, he could be my brother just like someone that's the same skin tone as me. And he learned that over time. It was because he was exposed to diversity later, right? But if we do it from the very beginning, I think that will help.
Jessica, did you have something to say? You look like you were getting ready to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I actually had the opposite effect. I mean, when I moved to San Diego for college, I had never seen so many white people. So yeah, it was a culture shock for me. I was like looking around and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Like, I'm used to diversity. And so that was really weird for me.
Yeah. You know, for me, Bruce, you got anything to add?
You know I do.
I know you do. Look at you patiently waiting with your hands together. I'm gonna start calling you Bruce X.
You feel me? No, I was gonna say that the diversity is you hit the nail on the hammer on the nail, whatever. How you know I said. My thing is, not only should you expose your children to things that are not like them, you should also genuinely expose yourself. So the thing that my children will tell you, they got uncles and aunts that are of every shade. Like, I genuinely love all people. You know what I'm saying? So I think that if you genuinely love everyone, you know, it's easily taught to your children, you know, vicariously, just by being around it. You know, it's passive even. It just happens. But it starts at home. It's not going to be the adults that change the problems that we face. You know, I'm not going to get too deep, but I'm saying the problems that we all face in interracial relationships, the racism, the looks, the uncomfortable stares, all that's because the people who are looking at you or who are feeding you that negativity were not raised right. And sometimes it's no fault of your own, but then at one point when you stop
power's back on.
At one point when you stop blaming other people, hey girl, got her lighting back.
She got her lighting back. They got her power up. You paid your light bill? Did you Western Union that light bill, buddy?
I'm trying to get the furniture back. Okay.
That's fine. Take your time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to add too, teaching your kids love is amazing. Like, my kids, if you ask them what their race is, they're like, well, what does that mean? They're like, I'm American because my mom's American, and I'm Salvadorian because my dad's Salvadorian. So they don't even see a color. They see like a place where they're from.
Right.
So I mean, they're just like when they look at me, they're like, Mom, you're pale and we're tan. So they don't even know like a difference either.
But you're still mom. And I think that's the
Yeah.
important thing. And when it comes to like the looks, because here's the funny thing is that I could be walking with a woman who is not black, but people perceive she's black and nobody gives me any issues. But then I could be walking by myself or interacting with people by myself. And the assumption is that, oh, you're with a white woman. I could just tell you look like the type. You got the right, you got the type of voice that says you're with a white woman. Or you have the type of mannerisms that only a white woman would put up with. Oh, okay. Well, hey, I guess power to whoever's rocking with me because I'm rocking with them. But let's bring a couple of the things in from the chat. Number one, Janae says that I get the same comments about my mom. They always ask if it's my real mom. First off, even if it's not my biological mom, it can still be my real mom. So that's what you start hitting them with. And then you tell them, mind their business.
I would just go home and cry.
Right. Then Sylvia says, I've been told by white guys that I am racist against my own race because I dated and married a black man. I chalk that up to pure ignorance. Before I even go further down the chat, what are your guys' thoughts on that when you are perceived because of what you are attracted to, which in some point is a choice and at some point is just what you're attracted to.
Right.
What are your guys' thoughts on that when people feel like you're not giving, and this is a recycled question, but you're not giving your race, I use that loosely, a fair shot at you as a potential relationship or partner?
Can I go? I'm so sorry. Can I go?
Absolutely, Bruce. Hey, wait, time out, Bruce. Before you go, I knew you had an answer to this question when I asked this question on the first Intersation. Yeah, so go ahead and jump it off.
When I was watching it on the replay, I was like, "Ooh, my hand up! I'm driving." I'm like, "No, me right here." Listen. So the thing that I love to say, because I get into this conversation so often. This is the thing. I try not to get scatterbrained, guys. When I was accepting applications, there was no prerequisite on the color. Elizabeth sitting in there on the couch right now, she could have came to me in purple, pink with polka dots, lime green with stripes. As long as it was her, I have no objections. She has been with me through some of the craziest stuff. We've been through everything, very bottom to where we're trying to climb to the top right now, right? So, there were girls in high school that looked just like me. They had no time for the boy. I get that. Oh, you must be with a white woman but until I'm angry. When I'm angry, nobody thinks I'm with a white woman. It's so weird. It's so weird. As soon as the brother gets angry, it's like, okay. So there's that, and then there's the fact that what else were you gonna say, Bruce? You scatterbrained. Yeah, man, all that good stuff. I got another one. I'm gonna jump in, but I got another one. That's crazy. That's absolutely that's nuts.
I think I get the opposite though. I think it's like they date me because they say I'm not black. And it's just like, yes, I am. But I'm also Mexican. And like I think that's the thing I mostly get. Like, or if I have someone of a different race approach me, they'll either I had a Caucasian man come up to me and he just started talking like really ghetto, thinking that that's what I liked. And then when I started talking, exactly. And then when I started talking, he completely switched up. He's like, "Oh, you're not like that." No, I'm not. I'm a person.
I'm not like TV.
Yeah, I'm like, where are you getting your information from? Like, so it's I get the complete opposite. I just date out of what happens to come to me and what I'm attracted to. And I actually like all races. So I think it's how people approach me is the difference.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. Forgive me. She said it and it jogged my memory. I just like women. You know what I mean? Like
I like men. There you go.
I feel you. But so, and the thing is, the other thing that you guys were talking about on the Intersaction, the first one, that made me think, I never even thought about it either. 37 years old, also in July, almost 37. I never thought about this fact. My grandmother and grandfathers are who raised me, and they were black, obviously. My step grandfather was black. My biological grandfather was black. my dad, my mom, they're black. Obviously, here I am, black as you know. Hey, how you doing? But I never seen my dad with a white woman. Like, I never thought that I would, but I also never gave it any thought because I didn't think love came with restrictions and stipulations. So, but I had never seen an interracial relationship like while I was growing up. But I also was brought up, like my grandfather, he was born in 1924. So he told me some of the craziest stuff that he's seen and that happened in his childhood and growing up and everything. So, but he would always end every story. Don't judge a man by the color of their skin. Judge a man by the character in their heart. And like, he believed it. And he was not the most educated man, but he stressed that shit to me. And when I was, he stressed that to me. And when I was a little kid, I didn't get it. Like, why does he keep saying that? Don't judge a man by, and I used to make fun of him and mock him. But man, to this day, he's the reason why my kids are even able to be here, because I was told that it doesn't matter what color you are. I'm going to judge you on how you act. I'm going to put you on the shelf that you are telling me to put you on. I'm not going to put you any higher, any lower. I'm only going to put you where you tell me you belong, period.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the same with my grandparents. My grandmother, she's actually Native. She was born and raised on an Indian reservation. My great-grandfather, he is full Native American, and he married an African-American woman. So even then, in those standards in Nebraska, he actually was breaking race barriers within the Native American culture because they were supposed to be betrothed to another Native American, and he broke those barriers. So I think it was just instilled within my family from the very beginning.
Man, you got roots in
interracial
relationships.
I have roots.
Let me catch up really quick then on this chat, because it's growing fast. I want to thank you guys for participating and interacting in the chat, whether it's with each other or with the live group. It looks like the network says, I don't care if Filipino women date outside. Does not bother me at all. I don't own anyone. I never understood why people feel a type of way when they see their own date outside the race. Yeah, and you know, it's funny because sometimes you have people who are hypocritical who be like, it's cool if I do it, but you know, all the women who are in my category need to, like you said, be betrothed to me because that maximizes my opportunities. No, man, like if it's good for you, it should be good for the other party. But even if it's not good for you, don't worry. I think it should still be good for the other party, especially if we ain't the same race. Just saying. The next person, Janae, says, because she's Mexican and white, not black or mixed like me and my dad. Oh, she's following up on people saying that her mom's not her mom. The network says, why be bothered with other people's business? Makes no sense. True. Like I don't know what it's like in other countries to this extent, but in America, it's interesting that people can be disturbed by your happiness, like that, which has nothing to do with you. Like I understand that their happiness, if their happiness encroaches on you, I understand. But like when it has nothing to do with you, like why are you so bothered by it? Like why does who I decide to lay down with, who I decide to have a relationship with, why does that impact you so? Because even if I wasn't laying down with them, I probably wouldn't be picking you because I don't like them.
Right.
The only thing I can get from that is I've just talked to different friends about this, and I think it's when it becomes, oh, I only date you because you're this race or you're only that race, and it's not about just love. It's about loving who you are loving yourself. When you're talking about self-hate, I think that's when it becomes an issue. And I think that's what most people have the biggest problem with. Not that you love somebody because of just their personality, but you specifically say, oh, I don't date your race because you're this way or you're that way.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on it.
I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, you're right on it. Yeah, and that's what you hear that all the time, right? You hear that, I know a few men that are out there that say, no, I don't date black women. They're black themselves. They're like, I don't date black women. Give me anything else but black women, right?
Yeah, those are the ones I get, and they're like, oh, but you know, you're not black, so it's okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's so ignorant. It's so ignorant. It's ignorant on so many levels. It's like I'm gonna close off my whole experience in this category because of blank. Like, I just never understood that. I just, it baffles me. Again, like if you are holding out on love, even like you could be missing out on love for something as dumb as I don't date X. Because of like, you know what? I don't date psycho women. Like my wife is crazy, but she's my kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I don't date like serial killers. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. There's things I don't do for sure, but stupid comes in every color. You know what I mean? Stupid comes in every color, so it don't really matter.
True story. True story. One second. So catching up the chat really quick. We're going to catch all the way up. So Mike Lewis says, oh, first off, shout out to Black Heights, one of my brothers, Antoine Wade. He was actually on the first part one of this particular segment. So appreciate you coming in and supporting the show tonight, brother. Mike Lewis says, I took Lindsay, my white girlfriend, to a Case concert, and the level of side eye I got all night was nuts. You know, because, you know, she's white. She can't like R&B. One of my coworkers actually, she's like in the HR type department. And I kid you not, when I moved to Utah, which is predominantly white, she's talking to me. She's like, yeah, there's this place here you can go. And they got like a good DJ that plays like Case and, you know, Maxwell and all these. I was like, hey, you talking my lingo. Yeah. But again, these are these borders and boundaries we want to put on people based on lazy concepts of what color they are. Doesn't work out very well. Black Height says, I love when people say they don't see color. And when you look at their family, they are all homogenous. So that's funny. Janae says, I got a lot of comments from people saying I'm whitewashed. Ooh, we should put that in.
Same right here. My kids even get it to this day. I get that all the time.
Because I am well spoken.
I get that, and I am white. No, I'm being because where I come from.
Right, because you grew up in our neighborhood.
I moved to San Diego, and then I became whitewashed. Like I remember the first time I called home from moving to San Diego, my sister was like, "Jessica, what's wrong with your voice? Like, what's going on? You sound white." And I was like, "Well, I am." Like I didn't.
Well,
so
I'm done.
You should have just been like, "That's accurate."
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Well spoken. I use, I guess, smart language within an argument, or because I love writing stories. People say I'm whitewashed. Girl, you ain't got nothing to worry about what people saying. Just so you know.
You're gonna get a job quicker. That's all that means.
Right? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, what you can't put down on your resume or on your application is Ebonics. As much as I wish they would have made that a language, it is not. Thus, you are not going to receive additional compensation if you go in the interview.
Talking about I'm bilingual.
I'm trying to get the differential because I can call the people in the hood. Yeah, no, not gonna happen. Mike Lewis says at Janae, the well-spoken thing kills me. Why is it you have to be white to articulate words? Maddening. Sylvia, Janae, I hate that term. My husband has been told the same thing. Excuse me, and that he is weak because he married a white woman. Wow. I'm liking the chat today. Y'all letting loose. Brian Sr., cousin Brian, Janae, my brother told me I sound white. After asking him to explain what that sounds like, I told him he could get he could get these black heads.
Yeah, that's
actually. See these chats right now.
Right.
I really wish I could.
Oh, Mike Lewis, if my happiness is your sadness, get away from my happiness then. And let's see. Oh, Mike Lewis, you're talking to my cousin. Janae, Mr. Billy. You can just call me Billy. That's fine. Or Billy Rowe. Mr. Billy, sorry. My middle name is Janae. I actually go by Carissa. Sorry, I will go by Carissa. I'm reading it from the end of it. I apologize. Carissa. There we go. See, I asked you to call me the right name. I'm going to call you the right name. And Brian Sr., I'm not an I'm not in an interracial relationship, but teach our kids diversity. My sons are in interracial relationships and my grandkids are of mixed race. It will take our generation to change the trajectory. I agree. I think, Bruce, you said it the best as far as like, we got to display what that love looks like and what that value system looks like in order for our kids to embrace it and really carry it forward as the old mindset begins to die off. Like that's
right.
We're just gonna have to let them go extinct.
There's nothing wrong with loving. Like everyone who knows me knows that I absolutely love the skin I'm in. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with loving who you are and where you're from, but there is no limit. There should never be a limit set on love. Like, oh yeah, I only got enough love for these 4 people. That's all I got. Like, you should never limit yourself on the love you give. You should never limit yourself on the love you receive, really. But whatever.
Right. Both sides of that coin. So this next question, I actually, Kristen, if you could answer this question first, I'd appreciate it, because I think you have probably the most experience with this, and I could be wrong, but
we'll see.
When it comes to like marrying or being in relationships outside of our race, how do we preserve the traditions and the cultures? Like you said, you were raised in a Mexican neighborhood or a Latino neighborhood. Okay, I'm just making sure, it could have been more than Mexicans. Could have been more than Mexicans there.
It mainly was.
Okay, so you were raised predominantly in a Mexican neighborhood, and so it would kind of be easy for your traditions to swing the way of Mexican traditions. However, it seems like, according to what you're saying, you have a blend of both of your cultures. So in your opinion, how do we preserve our cultural identities when we're in these relationships? How was that displayed in your household?
It was mainly sticking to traditions. I know that we would spend holidays with both of my grandparents, and my grandmother, because I only had my grandmothers would actually go to each other's houses. So each tradition was always there. Like, I know within my mom's family, they have their own traditions and they stick to it. Like, if my abuelita has something going on, the whole family's there. And it's just known to go, that you just go. It was never like, oh, an argument, like, no, we have to do this, or no, we have to do things this way. I come from a Catholic household, so it was mainly based upon religion, and holding on to those traditions was the main thing that we did.
Okay.
So I think that's how it brought us together, because it was just, we based everything on our religion and our just natural traditions. So it's like, I'll have tamales on Christmas.
And peach cobbler. You got tamales and peach cobbler.
That's called winning.
I'm telling
I can second that, because I spent Christmas with her.
Shoot, I should have got an invite.
You get chile, you get all of it. So it's like, I got peach cobbler, I got mac and cheese, I still have tortillas. Like, you got rolls of tortillas. So like, I mean, we just. The next day you had stuffies. Like, my abuelita, she made stuffies, and she just put like jalapenos and like meat in a bolillo. So I mean, it was just always mixed. It was always intertwined. So I have both. I call it the best of both worlds. I didn't think I enjoyed all of it, and my kids do too. So.
All right. What Key? What about you with your household being in an interracial marriage? How are you able to hold on and preserve both cultures and implement both of those cultures into your children?
Man, Chris is like on point with everything today. Like,
we're gonna have to make her go last again.
Right. Exactly. Seriously, we do the same thing. So we, like, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, my family comes over to my wife's side of the family's house, and we have like this whole mix, and literally it's like 2 different types of food. You got your soul food and you got your Mexican food. Like, it's like it's a blend, and everything is just, it's great every time we spend time together. It really is something, just the families just blend in together. One thing that I've also done with my kids is, it's never been about, what color you are, but it's been about where do you come from? What's your heritage? So I've always let them know that you come from African-American descent and you are also Latino. So this is your culture. So I would do little projects. Like my daughter still remembers like the Martin Luther King book I had her read on speeches. I've had her do reports on that, and then also do a report on Cesar Chavez. Like it's like understanding where she comes from on both sides of the family. That's just kind of just been the way it is. It's like we're always interacting between both families, so they're getting both of the cultures.
Anybody else want to add to that, Bruce or Jessica?
Same in our house. Ever since I've been with my husband, we celebrate Christmas on the 24th. And then we also celebrate Christmas on the 25th. So we just, it's been so natural for us. It just blends. And so our kids are just used to that. We also have a blended family because I have a stepson. So sometimes we have 2 Thanksgivings, or everything is just blended together. A lot of times we're with my husband's family just because they're in Monterey. So what I try to do is bring my children here to Sacramento to see my side of the family. So they know their father's family, and they know my family as well.
Right. And I think that's equally important. Bruce, anything else you want to add to that? Or
I don't. Yeah, my kids don't have that luxury. You know what I mean? My family, like, just it was terrible. Like, they don't have any cousins from my side of the family. But the thing that they do have, and I tell them to be very appreciative of it, they have a mom who is big on all that tradition, cool stuff. So, like, Thanksgivings and Christmas and stuff, they go over there and they see their cousins from, my wife's side, and then they see all the family from my wife's side. But unfortunately, like, you get dad, and that's it. Do it moving.
Well, your daughter dimed you out in the chat. Carissa said,
really? Ain't time for bed?
She said,
Isn't it time for bed?
Wow.
He said, put grilled chicken and mac and cheese in a burrito. Yes, so good.
Basically. Why are you telling my secrets, girl? Don't you? She's probably right. I might have done that.
I would do that. I ain't gonna lie. I would do that. I ain't doing no carbs next week though, so I'm gonna have to do it this week. So the next question I want to ask is open to anybody except for the last but not least person.
Thanks.
You gotta go. You can't go first anymore. Have you ever experienced your family's acceptance? And you know what? I want Jessica. Can you start with this because we grew up in the same neighborhood? Have you ever experienced your family's acceptance of interracial friends, but not interracial relationships?
Oh, absolutely. My best friend growing up is Mexican, and I was allowed to go to her house. I was allowed to spend the night. She was allowed to come to my home. And I think it goes farther. It goes like same-sex relationships. So because she was a girl, it was fine. If it was a male friend, then it was out of the question. It couldn't be white either. There was like no boyfriend whatsoever.
You can only be friends with girls. There's no such thing as a guy friend. That would be considered boyfriend, and you can't have that. Got it.
I was a tomboy, so that worked for me.
Bruce, I'm gonna ask you a slightly different question. Same question, but in your experience, where a family may be accepting of interracial friends but not interracial relationships, then are they really accepting of those interracial friends, or are they just simply being friendly because there's no? I'm going to use a word that I really don't agree with, but there's no risk of contamination.
Okay, so that is a great question. To answer it directly, I don't have any experience. Let me just throw that out there. I don't have any experience in any of that. For as mean as my grandmother was, she really didn't care what color you were. Like, she was going to be mean to you regardless if you were black, white, Asian. So, and that combined with the fact that grandpa was like, treat everybody whatever. So I never ever had to deal with that as far as at home. But to answer your question, you hit it right on the head. The part you didn't even want to say is like, they're being tolerant of the fact that the risk of contamination is very low. Like, but even some people are like, nah, bro, you can't. Well, that's outward racism, but I don't want you to even kind of like anything that's not us. You know what I mean? And that's a thing. But that comes from, I'm only assuming where it comes from because I mean, none of my family members have ever been like that. Like my wife's the Mexican side of her family, they disowned her, disowned us until they met my kids and seen how great they were, and they're like, oh, these kids are so
You had
awesome. Like,
grandbabies. That's
right. Well, but they disowned her because
cute.
the Mexican side of her family, Mexicans don't like black people. We've all been through that stereotype. So, but other than that, like the white side of her family, they mess with the boy, kind of. It took grandma. No, I'm not gonna lie. Her dad loved me in the beginning. Her dad's Mexican. Her dad loved me in the beginning, and then when I told him that she might be pregnant, like it was weird. He like cried, and then he wanted to fight me, and then he didn't want to fight me. It was really weird. It was strange. Her mom's always been cool, but her grandparents took a while to warm up. Like it was weird because like they're old white folk, and so it took a real it was uncomfortable. Like, and me being very vocal, but my wife is very like she like completes me. She keeps me like, hey, just shut up, bro. You don't gotta say that. Like she keeps me, grounded. So I've never actually had to have that conversation with him. Not that I wouldn't like to, because you know me, I like to talk. But she said they'll come around. Just keep being great, and they'll come around. And I guess I'm kind of great, and they came around, and stuff's looking up. I don't know.
All right. Anybody else want to add to that before we move on?
I might be a little bit off topic, but I don't know. I haven't experienced much flack. I don't know if it's because in Sacramento there's a lot of diversity, or the families that I've been involved in, I have not encountered, their parents or grandparents looking at me a certain way. I probably got more flack when I was dating black women than dating outside of my race. It was interesting. Like I've actually had times where someone would say, "Ew, why is he dating her?" Type of comments, and she was the same ethnicity as me, right? And probably the only thing I've ever had was, people say like, "Oh, I see why you're with your wife, because she got a little junk in her trunk."
Oh no, we went there.
But I've heard those come, but for the most part, I haven't gotten a lot of flack. So it's kind of been, I'm very grateful for that, because it's been something where it's even with my mother and father-in-law, like they've been very accepting, and they're actually, my father-in-law is Guatemalan and Nicaraguan, and my mother-in-law is Mexican. So it's like, it's even a blend there, right? So, they've been, loving from the very beginning, and my family has always been loving, even though probably growing up, I'm not going to say what sibling, but there's been siblings that would say certain comments about certain races, but they were always really accepted other races over time. It was just more of a kind of like a inner joke type thing. I think sometimes it's a kind of like a comedic type joke that is within the Black community, where they say certain things about certain races, but don't necessarily mean it in their heart, But yeah, I just kind of wanted to add that.
Okay. No, I feel it. Anything you want to add, Jessica?
Oh, I was just gonna say my husband makes fun of me all the time.
Yeah, he's making fun of you in the chat. If you're not paying attention, he's in here.
Okay.
Oh, and you can't see the chat.
No, I can't.
Oh, he's clowning.
It seems like, hey, Billy, it seems like so like how to piggy off what Key just said, it seems like because his in-laws are already in an interracial situation, they're open and they get it. So it's easier for him to be in his relationship and have the families mingle. And Kristen's, she said that her parents are interracial. So it's like a pattern. You see what I'm saying? It's that display of, hey, regardless, and like we have our differences. Like obviously, if you're in an interracial relationship, those differences come up, but your children watch you work through them. You know what I mean? Oh, so you mean we can disagree and we can still love each other? Oh, this is fantastic. So I don't have to hate you because you don't look like me or think like me. Oh, this is fantastic. What a great world it would be if we could all get on board.
If we could all figure that out.
Right.
So let's have a little bit of fun, because I believe that every race has stereotypes, positive and negative stereotypes that are associated with them. How strange it is that we don't want to acknowledge the negative ones that are associated with our race, but we want to acknowledge the positive ones that are associated with our race. But fortunately, all of you guys are actually in interracial relationships.
Always.
What you're always.
Always.
Any relationship you're in, unless it is exactly your makeup, you are in it.
It's so difficult.
But what are the stereotypes that you have found in being in your interracial relationships to actually be true? Oh, everybody was quiet now. So, yeah,
I'll say something.
All right. Sarah ain't gonna come and hit you in the head, is she?
Nah, she's not, because I talk about it all the time. So Mexican families really do like living like a block away from each other. Like, and they have big families, and they like to party until like 48 hours has passed and they're still going. Like, that's like real deals, like a real fiesta, you know, like no joke. But I love it. Like I like, you know, being in that culture is like, it's amazing, but it's a lot of soul in that culture too. And I think it's something that I really love about it. And I didn't know that before. So yeah, it's true. Like they come in packs, and they love to hang around and chill a lot. So, you know, it's really cool.
Nice.
He turned that into a positive. See that?
The party positive.
Yeah.
No, they really. I've been to a couple of their parties, and my goodness, like I'm like, okay, I gotta go home. Like I was trying to stay to clean up, but I'm tired and I'm going home.
And I really do have a lot of cousins. Like a lot. My grandmother had 20 children, so I have a lot of cousins.
Wow.
20 children, good Lord. Ooh.
It's like, who's that? Oh no, that's my cousin. That's my prima. That's my prima.
It's always your cousin. It's always your cousin.
My cousin.
Yeah. Or that's my nephew, and that's my niece. I'm like, no, I know all your sisters and brothers. How's that your?
No, you're like Jessica's babies are. Those are my nieces.
Yep.
Those are my babies.
You know, it's funny because for the neighborhood that we grew up in, that is what I am. I'm like Uncle Billy to all my elementary school friends. When I see their kids, it's like Uncle Billy, Uncle Billy, Uncle Billy.
Yep.
All my church friends that I grew up with, Uncle Billy, Uncle Billy. As a matter of fact, I went to brunch with a friend of mine while I was in Sacramento last week, and I hadn't seen his son since he was like a baby, and now he's talking and being potty trained, and he says, "Hey, say hi to Uncle Billy." And he's like, "Hi, Uncle Billy." Like, I don't really know any name to go by with my friends or my family's kids. Like, it's just Uncle Billy. Even my in-laws, like their kids, Uncle Billy. So I think that that's really a good thing to just have that closeness and beyond just like your family. I think that that's important to have that closeness within your whole tribe, and that tribe encompasses your friends and other relationships that you bring to the table. Bruce, what do you got? Like you have something to say?
My wife's gonna kill me. I'm gonna say it.
Oh, no.
All right. So wait, can you ask the question again so I make sure I'm not putting my foot in my mouth? Go ahead, ask the question again. I want the question twice on the replay in case she decides. Go ahead, ask that question again. What's the question?
What stereotypes have you found to be true in interacting?
Okay, yeah, here we go. So look, I'm just being honest, right? And I would say this to my wife, and it makes her mad, dude. It makes her mad. But what I had to realize is that it benefits my children so much, because I'm lacking in the emotional empathy department. Like, I have little girls, a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, about to be 13. And I don't get into the actual caring as much as, here's how we fix it. This is exactly what we can do to, because so anyway, I always say, and my wife don't like it, but I be saying it. I'm walking around it. I'm dancing around it, okay? I'm trying, guys. Here we go. I always say I wish I had a white mom, because, and what I guess that's a negative connotation for the fact that my kids would run over this lady. At least I say that, but it's not true. It's just that I wasn't raised around caring, and I was raised around survival. Like, you know what I mean? If you don't want to get hit upside the head, you better get this done. You know what I mean? That's how I was raised. And on TV, the white mom would let you even have a say, like talk back. Like talking back is so weird. And these kids be talking so sideways to my wife. But to me, it's sideways. But when my wife explains it, no, they have opinions. They have emotions. They have feelings. They're not robots, Bruce. And so the stereotype that's true is I'm the angry black dad. Like I am more, we're gonna get this done. And if you don't get it done, I'm gonna show you why you should have got it done. You know what I'm saying? But because of my wife, it's actually helped me. This is the reason why my kids go to her. Like they'll come and talk to me. Rissa, she in here right now. They'll talk to me, but really, if I need to get the meat and potatoes, I'm going to mom because that's where they're gonna go because she listens to them. I guess that would be the best way to say it. Like she actually genuinely cares about how they feel about what they're feeling. I'm more like, this is your problem. This is how we fix it, and let's go ahead and fix it. And that's a knock on me, and it's such a big up to her. And I tell them all the time, you guys are so damn lucky. Like, it's crazy because without her, I don't know where y'all would be because it would be a military boot camp around this joint. I promise you that.
Right. Push-ups, cool class, line up, King Jacks, ready to begin.
All right, count them out for real.
See, Bruce, I actually grew up with an angry white mama. So
I heard that's a thing.
It is. So I had to learn all of that stuff that your wife has. I had to learn that. I wasn't raised that way. So
you're amazing. You are such a loving mama.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bruce, your daughter dimed you out. She said 11 p.m. dishwashing. Remember, Dad? I don't know what that is.
When you listen, put it like this. When you're yelling at the other kid so bad that the other kid wakes up out of the sleep and just starts washing dishes, I'm like, hey, I'm like, Elizabeth, it's the baby. She woke up out of her sleep and just started washing dishes. I was like, oh.
Look, I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm going to just go ahead and knock a chore out before I go back to bed.
Right, babe, why don't you tell her to take a shower and get out the intersection? Go ahead. The shower don't bother the intersection. Go and get out there. Work that out. Thank you, Rissa, for contributing to the conversation.
Tell her we said thank you and have a good evening.
The panel says thanks.
Thank you. I actually
have
something to say on this one.
All right, go ahead. What you got, Kristen?
As far as he was saying about like the mom thing, if you ask my kids, my oldest son would say, I have a black Mexican mother. So I have if you want to talk about rearing, I have the Mexican side and the black side. You haven't seen nothing until you've seen a black Mexican mother angry because she's very passionate. And she's gonna whoop you upside your head.
It's good stuff. That sounds like good stuff. I like it.
But I'm laughing at the same time because my mother is very loving, and I know that like when we got in trouble, like she would get on us. Like my parents would get on us, and we get whoopings, just like go get the twitch or go get the belt. But afterwards, my parents would talk to us. And explain to us what the situation was. Like, don't judge me off of my first reaction because I'm going to have a reaction. And I think my parents have taught me that at least, like, yes, be disciplinary, be hard on your kids, but also talk to them so they understand the reasoning behind it.
No, you are 1,000% correct. That is what I tell my kids all the time. I give you what I thought I needed at your age to be successful. Exactly. So yes, I do go in. I'm not, and I don't hold a punch. I tell them that's why I'm your best friend because I'm not gonna lie to you. I am not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This is what it is, right? But at the same time, I always explain to them why. This is why. Because I used to get, and the one thing that I hate as parents that got done to me, and I was on my own at 15, so like adults don't even take you serious, right? So because I said so, it's lazy.
I say that sometimes, but then I have to catch myself.
I tell them exactly why. This is why. Not only because I said so, but this is why though. I try to, I don't know, I just want to make sure that you're giving them the 100% truth without sugarcoating it. And I don't want to confuse them. I tell them all the time, I'm not a rocket scientist and I'm not raising rocket scientists unless that's what you want to do. Then we'll work on that. But I don't want to confuse anyone. I want this is it. And this is why. And do I rage out? Do I have a problem? And I tell them because I know my flaws. Thank you, Billy, for helping me realize this. But I got a lot of them. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know until I started talking to Billy. Thanks, Billy. I got a lot of flaws, right? But I express them to my children because I was like, hey, this is why I don't know how to act. And I apologize, but here's the message. Here's the meat and potatoes. Here's what you need to take from this. And I do a lot of asking, so what am I saying? Because I want to know, and there's no right or wrong answer. I want you to tell me what you're interpreting from the words I'm using. Don't regurgitate my words to me. Tell me what my words are making, you know what I mean? Just to make sure that I'm driving it home. Because at the end of the day, it starts at home. The world is how it is because parents stopped parenting at some point. I don't know when it was, but at some point we gave up.
Working. I think it has to do with more of accountability. They don't hold their kids accountable for their actions. I work within the school district. I work in special education, and it's just there's no accountability. Yes, there's maybe something going on, but you have to be a disciplinary somehow. There has to be accountability for your actions. Yes, you may have issues going on, but it's accountability when it comes to parenting. Your kids have to understand that, yes, the actions that you do, there are repercussions. There's going to be something. There's always like a pro and a con to something that you do, a cause and effect. Like you do something good in school, you get rewarded. You do something bad, you get in trouble. They don't understand that. They feel like, oh, well, my mom says I could do this, so I could talk to you like that. Or I could talk to my mom like that, so I could talk to you like that. There's no repercussions or no disciplinary action or accountability.
Right. So I'm going to lighten this up, and I'm going to say something that is stereotypical in our house, and it's true, is my husband eats and breathes and poos soccer. So
you running in the house.
Oh, that was probably my son's first word.
Oh, wow.
Is goal. Yeah, at the top of his lungs. He was kicking a soccer ball before he was walking, and he's almost 2. So, yeah.
Wow. Mike Lewis says the internet is raising kids. Brian Sr. says daughters enable their fathers to empathize.
Let the dogs out.
I always say, no wonder God gave me no daughters. I just have goddaughters, but I don't have any biological
daughters. Take your heart as a mom, though. They do.
Yeah.
Maybe the next relationship, Billy.
Maybe not. I don't need a doula. Thank you. I will not be needing the services of a doula at all.
Dang it.
Let's move on to the next question. For anybody to jump in on, have you ever found yourself in a relationship where you noticed that you or your significant other has an unconscious racist behavior or emotion? How did you address that situation? Oh, go ahead.
Very much so. Like, because I'm passionate. I had the in spirit. Like, I'm very passionate, and so I always get like, when it comes to things that like, how can I explain this? Anything that has to do with the Mexican culture. When they say, "Oh, I see your cousins on the corner selling oranges," or they make racial slurs all the time, not thinking that it affects me in any way. And it's just like, oh, well, you don't. Or if I have Mexican friends and they say something like, "Oh, well, you know, it's okay because you're Mexican," or they think they could ask me certain questions and it's not going to offend me. I've just dealt with it my whole life. Like my kid's grandmother, she has said things when my children are there in front of her in regards to Mexicans being dirty or just that dirty Mexican or something like that. And it hurts my kids' feelings because they're like, hey, that's a part of me. My mom, my grandmother, like I've heard it my entire life from other people. So even with their relationships. And I just let them know, I'm like, hey, you know, realize that, yes, sorry, the house phone is ringing. What was the other part of your question? Because the phone.
No, this is why you got to turn your phone on silent. See,
that was the house phone. That's the house phone.
I didn't know they still made those things.
They do.
I said that sounds like a landline.
All right. Somebody got a landline ringer. the other question, the follow up to that question is, how do you address those things? So, like going back to your kids feeling hurt because of what their grandmother has said, how do you address those things?
I just let them know that, like, we're people first. I just let them know it's about being a person first. It has nothing to do with race. I'm a person. Would you go up to that person and tell them that? No, you wouldn't. Would you accept them telling you things in a racial sense, or would you get angry? How would it make you feel? Like, I just address it right then and there because I can't sit there and tolerate it. I get very passionate and defensive when it comes out.
I always like in the Latin culture that it is always passionate. Have you experienced that, Key, where it's always, you got to go somewhere somebody's talking to you, where it's passionate and not, it's not I got angry or I'll get irritated. It's I'm passionate about what I feel.
I get passionate. Sorry, I had to turn my phone. I do get passionate.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one thing I got on my wife. I actually tease her. She actually doesn't really do much, but I was teasing her because one time she was like, "Oh yeah, you want this Jolly Rancher? I know you want it." And I was like, "Did you say that because it's watermelon flavor?" I was like, "Yeah, actually I do want it." And I was kind of mad. I was like, "Yeah, I want this."
That's where you take it and throw it. I don't want it.
I don't want it. But no, it's actually been quite opposite with my wife. She's it's actually been really cool because we went to a restaurant and come to find out we knew the owners for some time, and we're sitting there, we're talking with the owners, and they go, come to find out the daughter says, yeah, goes to Sarah and it's like kind of confiding in her. Yeah, I'm dating a black man and my parents don't accept him and this and this and that. And Sarah flips. Like she goes, oh, she's like, we'll never eat there again. I was like, nah, I like the country potatoes. Like, I was like, I'm good. But she was like, no, she was like, well, until this day, it's probably been over 7 years. We have not gone back to that restaurant to eat just because she doesn't play with that at all. Any type of racism or things of that sort, she does not play with it.
No, I think sometimes I think that's what I think that's what it takes is a hard stance. Like you and I are like, well, I like the potatoes, so I still want to go there and at least can we just order some potatoes to go? We don't have to eat here.
Right.
But if you have people who are taking those hard stances, like imagine if the cost of being like racist was you went out of business as a business owner. Like now you really got to evaluate how supreme do you think your race is? Do you think your race is supreme enough to support you and keep your business going? Because if you don't think that, then you need to start really looking at some of your paradigms and either making those shifts that are necessary for you to thrive and survive, or you're just going to have to be willing to move from being on the top of your game to the bottom of it and having to figure out how you're going to support yourself and or your family and maybe be in some of that, in some of those unfortunate stereotypes that we place on the lower income or the lower income earners in our society, be in that situation and then see what that feels like being in that role. Anybody else want to add to that before I move on to the next question?
I think I have one more. I think it was I like how my kids address it, because sometimes like we'll go out to dinner as a family and my mom will be there and my dad will be there, and then the first thing my mom points out on the menu is that, oh guys, look, there's fried chicken on the menu. And my kids look at her like, Grandma, we don't even, fried chicken is not our favorite food. And they're like, well, Grandma, look, there's tacos on the menu. And so it's like they make a joke out of it.
They're like, look.
She looks at them like, why would you say that? They're like, well, why would you say there's chicken on the menu? Like, sometimes it's just, we joke around with it within our family, but when it's other people, that like my kids tend to get like defensive.
Right. Hey, Key, your background is echoing a little bit, so I had to mute you. I don't know if you're listening to the sound through your speakers, but I think it's bouncing off the wall behind you, just so you know. So really quick, I'm just going to let you guys know we are at almost an hour and a half. I have allocated 2 hours for this intersation. So I want to start bringing us home. I definitely have been enjoying this conversation. I've enjoyed the insights that you guys have provided, but I want to make sure we have time to have people ask any questions that's coming. By the way, Kristen, Mike Lewis said that phone is for bills only that you have ringing in the background.
No, you know what that was? That was my kids telling me to pick them up from the park because I dropped them off at the park to go skateboarding.
Oh.
Hey, but 18 and 16, so I'm good.
Oh, well, it sounds like they have transportation if you drop them off with skateboards. I'm just saying.
So basically,
kick push, kick push.
I'm going to ask probably 2 more questions, and then we'll just have to save the other one for part 3. Man, the next question I want to ask the group is, has learning things about your partner's family or culture changed your own perspective about their culture? Whereas, you know, for me being Black, if I'm with a white woman, you might think that, oh, well, her grandparents are racist because they were raised in that time period. But you might actually be with her and find out that no, her grandparents are not racist, and they're not even like secretly closet racist. They actually embrace you like they would embrace any other of their children. Are there any times or any experiences that you guys have had like that, where you went in with your own preconceived notions about the difficulty that you would experience or the difficulty in being accepted that were debunked?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, ladies first. Go ahead.
I never thought I was going to have to deal with that. I walked in blindly.
Oops.
Honestly. I walked in blindly thinking that, okay, like, they're just going to accept me. But when they found out that, like, they're like, oh, she's light skinned, her mother's Mexican, that means she's not fully Black. It was more of an awakening. Like, it was just the racial discrimination part of it that was hard for me. It was just like, okay, I've experienced it within, like, just walking into different places with my parents, but never within a relationship aspect. I thought that they would just look at me like, oh, okay, she's still African American, part of her still African American, she's a person. And that was not the case. It was a lot of jabs being thrown at me, like, oh, okay, well, you're light skinned, so you don't understand, or it was more of that.
Oh, so you even got caught up in the team light skin, team dark skin.
The brown paper bag and everything. Like they're like, oh, so you don't like us Black women? Like I got it from the family. So yeah, it was different. It was different.
Anybody else experience that?
I kind of put my wife up against. I put her back against the wall. Well, I guess it was a choice. We all got a choice. When we met and when she was pregnant with Carissa, my oldest, I was straight up homeless. Like, when I say homeless, I mean, like, I slept on the homeboy's couch, and then another homeboy had a couch, and so I would alternate through couches. You know what I mean? Like, the boy was, my wife seen something in me. I knew I would be all right. Like, I mean, I'm a little homeless, down on my luck, but you know, the funniest thing about now that I look back, like, and now that I have kids, like, how could you blame them, bro? Like, not only are you Black, you know what I'm saying? You Black and you ain't got nothing to offer her, but whatever you put inside her, now she's pregnant. Thanks a lot, right? So how could you be mad at them, really? But I didn't think of that then. I just thought, yeah, they're old and they're white, and you know they're not gonna mess with me. And then the Mexicans, they don't like me no way. So, but not really knowing that it was actually me who had a lot to contribute to fueling the stereotypes, fueling the negative thoughts that they have of me. Like, what do you have to show you for yourself? Like, if someone came home, if my daughter brought me home right now. Oh no. He lives where? He's doing what?
Yeah.
So I get it. Like I victimized myself because society tells you that, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. You're Black, they're old and white, they're not gonna like you. When in reality, I didn't really like myself and I didn't have a reason to, you know what I mean? And so I say, oh, they warmed up to me, they've come around. No, I've come around. Thank you, Billy. Like, through my own growth. Like, when you're growing, people see it. Like, bro, I remember when you were the homeless dude who got my daughter pregnant. Now here you guys are, everything y'all have built from, you know what I mean? So I don't know if that even answers the question, but I like talking. So
that shows the strength of your partnership, though.
It shows the
strength. What'd you say?
It shows the strength of your partnership.
Man, 100%.
But I think that's something that sheds light, because sometimes the paradigm change that we think we see in others is not the change that we initially thought it was. It's the matter that we've grown. I can relate in my last relationship when we first started dating as boyfriend and girlfriend. I didn't have a job. I was on government assistance and was a single parent father, so I was just winning. But as time has progressed and as those years that we spent together grew on, her parents began to see like, oh wow, this young man was in a bad spot, but he wasn't the type of person who was willing to stay there and fester and be complacent in that. And so now they look at the type of provider that I am now, whether that's being a father to my children or being a financial provider, providing child support for my children who still live in California. You can't see that from the beginning, but you can't say, oh, well, you guys just think because you're college educated and I'm not, that you're better than me. No, I think that you need to be a better version of you. And when you work to be that, I will be much more happy and pleased that my daughter is with that person. So I agree with that.
And that's big. That's big. And not a lot of us see that change comes from within. That if you want people to look at you different, you got to start looking at yourself different.
True.
That's true.
All right, I'm going to give you guys one more question, and then we're going to ask the final question for the night. And for those who are in the live chat, watching live, still rocking with us, I would like for you at this time to put into the chat what your number one takeaway was from tonight's conversation. Again, I wanted this conversation to be a little more on the deep side, but on the fun side. So the question stayed in a happy medium. But what was your key takeaway from tonight? Whether that was somebody that dropped a nugget in the live chat or one of the panelists on the show tonight, if you could put that in the live chat, I'd appreciate it. The last question I want to ask for the second to last question I want to ask for the evening is for those. All you guys are in interracial relationships, but for those not in interracial relationships, is there anything that we might be missing out on, or they may be missing out on, that makes the relationship easier?
Wait, huh?
For those who are not in interracial relationships, is there anything that they may be missing out on that makes the relationship easier when it's an interracial relationship?
Well, I'm sorry, y'all. I'll go again because I like to talk. Hey, there's nothing easy about a real relationship. It does not matter what color you are. Like anybody who's been with somebody for more than 7-8 years knows that I don't care what color you are. I'm telling you, my wife could be pink and purple. She'd still be the same butthole that she wants to be when she wants to be. And the same goes for me. Like when I want to be a butthole, I'm gonna be that. It doesn't matter what color you are. So anybody getting in a relationship thinking that, because she's the same color as me or because she's a different color than me, this is going to be easier, you might as well go and get out the game now, because ain't nothing easy about a relationship when you're an adult, when you're grown. You know what I mean? Like dealing with grown-up situations. Relationships are easy in high school. Not that my high schooler needs a relationship, but you know what I'm saying, though. Like grown-ups in relationships, there ain't nothing easy about it, bro. I don't care what nobody says. Even the best relationship is work. My wife is my priority. She is that's my job. Like, you know what I'm saying? These kids, this family, like it's a whole job, and there ain't no days off. And the pay, boy, it ain't financial. The pay, I tell you what.
It costs money to go to work.
So I was just gonna say, is that the secret? Because I've never dated a white man. So is that the secret? I mean, because I'm still trying to smooth over my mother-in-law 9 years later. So I don't know.
I know that struggle.
Right. But honestly, like Bruce said, that's an unfortunate part of the work. And I think sometimes what happens is we just want to say it's us against the world in a relationship. And in some ways it is. However, I wouldn't want to ask anybody to disown, their mother any more than I'd be wanting to disown my mother, even with the flaws that my mother comes with and the flaws that their mother comes with. There's a certain level of toxicity that I want to keep out of my children and out of our family. However, I think that I'm willing to leave that door open in that scenario, not just because it's mom, even if it was my father. My father, he brings a certain level of toxicity into my life. And so I don't interact with my father as much. I still love him, but I just don't interact with him that much because of the toxic nature of the conversations we have when we are interacting. And so I think there has to be, if there's a theme for tonight, there has to be some way to love through that, and give that ability for the person to take everything that they want to think that's horrible and negative and nasty about you and just obliterate it with, no, but this is who I am. I know who you think I am, and that's fine. You get to think I'm whoever you want to believe me to be. However, every time you interact with me, you're going to interact with the person that I am. So I think that's how we kind of obliterate that. But it is a challenge. And these are the challenges that need to be addressed in interracial relationships. Hey, how are we going to communicate this to your family when if it's your family, who's not accepting? Like you said, my grandfather didn't want me to have any guy friends, let alone they should have been white if they were, that. So how are we going to address that? Don't let me get blindsided by that. If we're partners, if we're in a relationship, don't let me get slapped upside the head on the blind side. Just let me know so that I know how we can work to address it. And you, as the partner who has the person, if you're still in here, Mr. Husband, as the partner, I think it's our responsibility if we have I'm going to use this word loosely, but hostile relative, it's our responsibility to have those conversations, those tough conversations with our family, to continue to go against the grain and ask them like, hey, is it more important that I'm with somebody who looks exactly like you, or is it more important that I'm happy? Because if you answer this question wrong, it might be more important that I don't see you as much. Like, that's a difficult conversation to have with the woman who birthed you. But at the end of the day, I tell my kids, a parent's best wishes for their child is that they are with somebody who brings out the best in them. And there shouldn't be some type of color association with the best. It's not like the person that matches their outfit. It's the person that brings out the best in them. I'm going to step down off my soapbox. Sorry about that.
No, that's so great. And like, to address Jessica, I would say, just in my humble opinion, my humble experience, I would say smoothing her over is not your job. Like, it took me to realize that it is not my job to make these people like me. You know what your friend said? You know what your friend Kristen said, Jessica, that's more important? You're a great mom. She said you said you had to learn it. And then she said, well, you're great at it. Well, if it's being seen from the outside looking in, it's not your job to smooth her over. When she's going to see it, she's going to see it. Because most of the time, people got blinders on. Because how I feel, yes, I've grown, we all grow, but I feel like I carry the same values. I'm the same heart is beating in my chest, and I love people the same. Like, so I haven't, quote unquote, changed as much as the blinders have came up a little bit. Like, how can you not see my value, but you can see that? Like, that's why I used to say to my wife all the time, like, I don't understand why I almost cussed again. I don't understand why these cats don't like me. If you're happy, I ain't sent you home upside your head with no lumps on your head. There ain't no cases of none of the nonsense that you would statistically hear about my angry black self, right? So as a parent, like you said, Billy, I just want my daughter to be happy. I want whoever you decide to open your heart up to want to make you the best part. Like, my job is to fill my wife up with confidence and love and let her know that even if it don't work, I think you can do it. Like, support all that. Like, and so her family, they have to see it, because y'all knew her when she was a little kid. I only knew her from how long I knew her, but you know who she is now. And if you don't think that you have a direct effect on who your partner is. So that's why I be laughing. I be switching subject. I be laughing. I be on Facebook and these girls be like, "Oh, my baby daddy ain't this. My baby daddy ain't that." Or dudes be like, "My baby mama dad." Well, hey, bro, you're a direct reflection of that. You had an impact on that. Now, I'm not gonna say that everybody ain't crazy and blah blah blah, but for the most part, when you're spending years with these people, like you have a direct influence on who these people become. Like my wife has changed me, not by like you don't want to give it somebody who wants to change you, but just by growth, by traveling through this crazy journey we're on. She's changed me, and she'll say I've changed her. And the thing is, the reason why it works, the reason why we can see forever still 16 years later is because our changes are for the better. Every step we're just trying to get better. We're going in the same direction. We get to the same location. We take different directions. That's what our thing is. But we get to the same destination, and that's how I feel like I'm talking. Let me shut up. Oh, yeah. My bad. Hey, my fault.
No, you're good. Is there anybody else want to add anything else before we wrap for the evening? Okay. All right.
You said so much.
I know, my bad.
I almost forgot what the question was.
I did too while I was talking. I forgot. My fault.
So my last question then for everybody's going to answer this, and we're going to go right to left. So this time, last but not least, is first. If there are 2 points that you would say would be key takeaways that you want people to take away from tonight's conversation, what would be the 2 points or the key takeaways that you would want them to take?
Start with love. And see, I should have been last for this one.
Nope.
Dang it. Know who you are, because no matter what, if it's in an interracial relationship, and you have to remain yourself and love yourself and love the person you're with. And communication is key regardless, because you have to be able to communicate in order to deal with anybody.
All right. So love and identity. I'm with that. Jessica, you are next. What do you have?
I'm going to say for me and for mine, it's got to be unity. Like, as long as my husband and I have each other, that's all that matters. And we need to love each other and show our children. It's kind of funny because when we kiss each other, my girls get so cute. They're like, "Oh, you're kissing mommy again." But at least they see us kissing and they know that we love each other. So it's all about unity and love and respect, right? Like I have to respect my husband's culture and I need him to respect where I come from also.
Okay. Bruce, what you got? 2?
He said 2.
I know. You see how you gave me a number? I heard the number. I was trying to condense it right when you said 2. I was like, I got 6 though. I would say, honestly, for me, the takeaway I would want anyone who's even considering an interracial relationship, two things. Number one, if you're doing whatever you're doing based on the views of a whole, like the Black community won't like me or the white community won't like me, then you've already doomed yourself. You're starting behind. You're starting behind. Go into it, doing it for yourself. And then secondly, I would say don't forget who you are while learning who your spouse is. We get so caught up in making sure that we're not offending, making sure that we're overly respectful, and then you forget who you are. I'm a Black man. I love all y'all. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what you got going on or what color you are. I am a Black man, and that doesn't change because I love a Mexican and a white woman. That. Just don't forget who you are. Like, always remember who you are because that's why your spouse chose you.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right. I'm feeling that. I like that second one too. Key, what you got? 2 of them.
I would basically just say, going back into, exposure of diversity and cultures. Definitely think that's a good takeaway of, when you're in an interracial relationship, really understanding that, when we're talking about with your children, things of that sort, to make sure that you're exposing them to all diversities. I think at one point we were talking about, how do we get people out of that mindset of thinking that, their race is, the only way to go. And I think that would be a very good way to understand that there's different cultures. I mean, there's even people of the same ethnicity that have a different culture, like
Right.
completely, right? So it doesn't even mean by skin color or skin tone. And I think you even pointed to that on the first Intersations where you said, the first your first wife, Olivia, was African, and you're African American. They have there's two different cultures there, right? And so it's just understanding that dynamic and having the exposure to that. And then second one, I think at the end of the day, it really just comes to understanding where your mate is comes from, and where her family comes from as well. One thing that Bruce was talking about, where you don't have to be the one in control of smoothing it over, right? At the same time, when I look at my mate, there's a reason why I love her, right? Or reason why you love him, and it's because of their upbringing. Typically, you look at their upbringing has molded them, right? So their parents have something to do with the person that you're in love with. So even if they're having these barriers or things where it seems like they're not trying to mess with you, things of that sort, it's just, again, being yourself, but also understanding the possibilities of where they might be coming from.
I like that. That is critical. And I mean, I'm going to say I've never even thought of that, how you may not like your in-law or your partner's parents, but those parents might be the people who taught their child to be an independent thinker, to even make the decision to be with you, which would be contrary to what their wishes might be. So that's really that's a really good spin on understanding how to appreciate somebody who may not necessarily embrace you the way you want to be embraced. I think that's really good. So normally, well, first off, I want to thank all you guys for being on tonight through power struggles and starting in a car, ending in an office. I want to thank you.
The come up.
I want to thank you guys for all taking your time to be on tonight. Kristen, Jessica, Bruce, and Kay. Intersation panels are always fun for me. I know they're a little longer format. I appreciate the live chat for you guys rocking with us and being really engaged in the conversation, sharing your nuggets and asking a couple of questions here and there. But normally with Intersations, what I do is I provide what I call tools for the first row. However, for this particular Intersation, because it is a part 2, instead of doing a tools for the first row, I kind of wanted to give you guys just a final thought and close out with that. So my final thought really from this conversation has been centered around starting from a place of love. Like, when you start from that place of love, it's really hard to focus on the negative, because your love to me is really focused on understanding. And so if you can just start from that place of love, you're in a better position to really try to understand the scenario, whether it's you're in an interracial relationship, same-sex relationship, same race relationship, doesn't really matter. It just is starting from that love really focuses on understanding, and not just understanding your partner, but understanding everything that comes with your partner, the good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty, the everything. And then the second thing is, and I think this was on the first one as well, but really just stop worrying about how your happiness makes other people happy or uncomfortable. That is their inner story that they have within themselves, whether it's somebody your race seeing you with somebody outside of your race, and wanting to judge you or criticize you or belittle you for that. Stop worrying about their happiness. That's for them to fix. And that was a lesson that I learned in my last marriage, where we were sitting in counseling, and I'm saying all these things that I think that she should be doing, and she should be focused on making me happy, and we should be invested in each other's happiness. And the counselor just simply said, like, her job is not to make you happy. You can't put such a great job, like a great responsibility on somebody such as your happiness, and for them to be responsible for keeping you happy. And I just felt like I was slapped in the face, like, what you mean? We together, we like Bonnie and Clyde. What you mean? But but in hindsight, that is the absolute truth. And so the person responsible for your happiness is you. The person living your life is you. Don't get caught up on trying to live it for other people and their happiness and their well-being. Because at the end of the day, if something happens to you, it doesn't necessarily happen to them. So those are the final thoughts that I have when it comes to interracial marriage. If you rock it, you rock it. If you don't, you don't. Find somebody that you can love and be happy with, and grow with. Bruce, I think you brought that out the most tonight. Somebody that you can grow with, and that is going to promote that growth within you, and that you can promote that growth within them and move towards common goals. So that's what I want to leave you guys with tonight. No first row tools, but that is the final thought for the first row for this evening. I want to again thank you guys for all tuning in live. Thank you guys for sharing your insights live on the panel. The next upcoming live show for the first row will be on next Tuesday. That will be an Intersations on April 16th at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is on the provider role with Brian Smith. He was actually in the chat for a little bit tonight. So I'm looking forward to that, talking about that role, what it means to be a provider. But other than that, as always, we're happy to engage with you guys in the live chat, as you can see tonight. But if you're watching this video on the replay, we do engage in the comments up to the first week. After that, we move on to the next content. But until the next time, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us on the first row tonight. If you like this video, share it. If you share it, like it. Again, happy to engage with you in any way that we can. You can find us on social media at First Row on almost every social media. But we look forward to seeing you next time on the first row. You guys have a good night. One love, peace, and God bless.